I get a lot of questions about how to control pasture weeds each year. Today we're going to dive into that topic, and I'm going to talk about the different ways of controlling pasture weeds. There are 4 ways to control pasture weeds. So you have mechanical, cultural, biological, and chemical means of controlling pasture weeds. We're going to take a look at each one of those categories and what does that mean. But before we do that, when we're talking about pasture weeds, you have to know that they fall into several different categories. They could be annuals, perennials, biannuals, and then they could also be warmer, cool season pasture weeds. So this is really important when we're trying to figure out our timing and when are those weeds present in our pasture. Let's dive deeper into different ways that you can control pasture weeds. Let's start out by talking about mechanical means. So you can control pasture weeds by either bush hogging or hand pulling. In some circumstances, this may be the only way to control those weeds in that particular situation. Let's take a look at cultural means of how to control pasture weeds. So that means soil sampling and proper grazing management to control pasture weeds. So when we talk about soil sampling, it's really important to make sure that all the nutrients are available to the forage that you're trying to grow, as well as the pH level. So sometimes we have indicator species of weeds that will move into a pasture that'll let us know that the soil fertility or the pH is off. An example of that is broom sedge. So if you have broom sedge or broom straw in your pasture, your pH might be low and or your phosphorus might be low. But when you get those sample results back, you will then know, do you need to add fertilizer to your pasture and or do you need to lime your pasture? And that will help mitigate some weed issues and foster an environment that your forages really want to thrive in. Another way to control pasture weeds is using biological control such as goats or sheep. So we know that goats are browsers and they really like to go after more woody stem species like briars and little tree saplings and things like that. And then for sheep, we know that they really like to graze broadleaf weeds. Lastly, let's look at chemical control. So when selecting a pasture herbicide, you need to know, do you need a residual or a non-residual herbicide for your specific situation? So for example, if you are growing hay and you're selling hay to horse customers that may compost the manure to put back on a garden, you would want to go with a non-residual herbicide that does not carry over in the manure. But if you are a beef cattle producer and you just need to spray something on your pasture to control your pasture, you're not doing anything with the manure and you've got a wide variety of weeds and you need long-term control, you might want to look at doing a residual herbicide that continues to kill those weeds over a long period of time. Using herbicides, you definitely have to be knowledgeable about how to spray those herbicides, calibrate your sprayer, wear the proper protective gear when you're spraying. You have to understand timing of spraying. So when it's 95 degrees out and there's a chance for thunderstorm, in a few hours or that afternoon, that's not a good time to spray. So now you know 4 effective methods when it comes to controlling weeds in your pasture.